Shalom WJC family. It's time for our weekly Torah Talk. This Torah Talk should be coming to your inboxes on Friday, which is Lag BaOmer, a celebratory day, the 33rd day of the counting of the Omer, the 33rd day of the 50-day period between the second day of Passover to the holiday of Shavuot. And it's a day of celebration, Lag BaOmer, a day when in ancient days we say a plague that had broken out among Rabbi Akiva's students was relieved. And the plague stopped and it became a day of celebration. We are counting also days in our time period, terrible days. As of Lag BaOmer this year, it will be 588 days since the hostages were taken to Gaza in the terrible attack by Hamas. 588 days. This week we were able to celebrate the release of Edan Alexander. Thank God. There now remain 58 hostages in Gaza, 23 of whom we hope are still living, and all need to be returned. This idea of counting days is very important, as it is in fact related though to counting people or what people count. A lot of news was made around Edan Alexander that he was American. He was a dual citizen, and that is part of why the American government fought so hard to make sure he was released. And that's, look, whatever it takes, every one of these people should be released. But we have to be careful not to think, does he count more because he's American? Of course not. And of course, lots of the hostages were not Israeli at all. The Thai workers and people from a dozen other countries, I think. And everybody counts as a human being. And everybody counts as their connection to the Jewish people, in this case, the state of Israel. So we're in this counting the days. And I was reading a commentary published by Ari Hasit through the Machon Schechter, the Schechter Institutes in Jerusalem. And he brought a commentary of the Maharal of Prague. He says, why are we counting these days? Every day we're supposed to count. It's actually a wheat offering, the Omer offering. We would wave above our heads and count the days. He says, the Maharal of Prague, that it was to remind people that even though they had been released from slavery, they shouldn't think that they wouldn't have to work for their food. Right? And so each one of these days, we're counting the labor. The Maharal says man was made, people were made to work, to create, to bring new things into this world. And, release from slavery was not release into Eden, into some kind of, messianic time when our food would just be provided for us. Even though in the desert we were getting manna, we should know that work and working the land was in our future, and therefore we would count the days that we had to work in order to bring this wheat into being. And so too, the work of the emotional work of living with the knowledge that these hostages are still being held, the work of actual diplomacy to try and get them out, the work of many people trying all different approaches, from protests to lobbying, from working back channels to going on media and standing before crowds, all the work going into getting these folks home by their families, by loved ones, by dedicated volunteers who just see this awful situation and want it resolved. That's the work. As we count these days, we're not only counting the days of captivity, we're recognizing the work and that the work still needs to be done, just like in our Parsha as we count the days of the Omer. The Parsha has another question about counting that I wanted to highlight. related to this idea of who counts. Does one person count more than another or not? And it's something we have to be very careful about. The Parsha ends with a story about a blasphemer, someone who curses God, and we're told that they're the child of an Israelite mother and an Egyptian father. And it says, in talking about it, Vayikov ben ha'isha ha'Yisraelit et Hashem vayikalel vayaviu oto el Moshe. Right, so a fight broke out in the camp between the Ben Yisraelit and a certain Israelite, and he blasphemed God and was brought before Moshe. The new JPS translation, the one in our Eitz Chaim Chumash, translates Ben Yisraelit, which literally means the son of the Israelite woman. Translate is as, and a fight broke out in the camp between the half Israelite and a certain Israelite. And I think that language of half Israelite is very dangerous, or can be dangerous. It is one way to say it. Who am I to argue with these master translators of the new JPS Bible? And yet, it seems like nobody is a half person, not even a half Israelite. Part of their identity can be one thing or another, and we've certainly seen that with the hostages. We've seen that with all the people who fought for the hostages, many of whom are not Israeli or even Jewish. Some extraordinary feats by people who just think this is wrong. And this language of half this, half that, half American, half Israelite, half Jewish, half not Jewish, identity doesn't work that way. Once I was told that a person's neshama is in their body the way olive oil is in an olive. Right? It doesn't just sit in our hearts, or as we sometimes say, this little spark of God. In fact, it pervades all of us. When you crush an olive to get its oil, oil comes from every part of the olive, from the skin, from the pulp, even from the pit. And so too, we are built that way. We can't divide up. We love to divide up our identities now into different things. I'm this or I'm that. I saw someone saying this about DNA testing, right? Well, I'm 35% this, and I'm 80, well, that wouldn't add up, and I'm 60% that. That's not how identity works. And we should be warned that every person counts. And when it comes to these hostages, all the more so, every person counts. Even those who we know are no longer alive, their persons need to be returned to Israel so that they can be buried properly. Their parents can have the time to mourn properly. This is the highest level of mitzvah. The other hostages, the 23 who we pray are alive, they must come home, and come home soon while there is still hope. And so as we count the Omer, as we come to this festive day of Lag BaOmer, next time you see me, my beard will be all trimmed and my hair won't be so long, because we don't shave during this period of the first 33 days of the Omer. We pray that it should be a festive day for all, that we should be able to count people, and every person should count, and we pray for the redemption of the captives. Shabbat Shalom.